welcome to the TMC Newsroom. Thanks for watching us today. My name is Rich Tehrani, and I'm at Interop 2010 New York. And on our program is Jack Daniel, who's a Community Development Manager at Astaro. Hey Jack, how are you?
Great, how are you?
Good, so tell me a little bit about Astaro.
We are a network security vendor, to oversimplify it. We have a large line of products. We're in the UTM space, Unified Threat Management. Been around, we're on our 11th year now, and our core product is the Astaro Security Gateway. It is an all-in-one system that bundles firewall, web content filtering, email protection, anti-spam, antivirus, remote access, intrusion prevention, a whole bunch of things. Some layer 7 protocol analysis for instant messaging peer-to-peer. And it extends into, this year we've added remote connectivity through an appliance that's managed on the Astaro, so instead of configuring VPNs for branch office, our Red product, small inexpensive appliance, extends your network without extending the management burden of your network. We've added wireless.
Securely, right?
Securely. It's a full layer 2 tunnel, so anything that you can get to go over Ethernet, anything you can make into an Ethernet packet, you can put on this, and then we wrap it in SSL for security, and let you manage one device at your main office and not worry about the small branch offices. We manage their traffic through that. We've added wireless. We have a centrally managed wireless solution, but instead of having an external, yet another box to manage, a central management wireless device with APs everywhere, we have those APs distributed however many you need, but we manage it as just as another component of the UI that our users are familiar with. We've also added mail archiving as a cloud service, and we have a lot of things coming up in the pipeline. So we do a lot of things to make managing your network securely easy. And nobody claims that they make managing things hard, but we truly do make it as easy as possible to do a lot of security things properly. And one of the things that we're finding, and reports are, it's been a gut feeling for a long time, but the reports are really starting to show it. Verizon's data breach investigation report is one that really shows just fundamental misconfigurations are still a huge problem. And we try to make it as simple as possible to properly configure your network security and your system security. Do it easily, because the complexity, there are very few IT administrators, network administrators that get regular visits from the spare time fairy, and so they just can't get the job done, and they're always under pressure. If it's hard to do it, it's easy to do it wrong, and that's
true, or not to do it at all.
Exactly.
That's the other problem. So you almost answered my next question, which was what sorts of trends are you seeing? There seems to be a trend of consolidation and ease of use, right? You're consolidating more and more services under your umbrella, meaning that once I get used to your user interface and you're working with your company, I'm able to do more and more things. So that's one trend that we're seeing. Another trend seems to be that there's less and less people having to deal with a more and more complex network between clouds and branches and converged communications, running on networks, and all those sorts of issues that companies have, and having to deal with security and compliance. Are there any other trends, or did I take all of the wind out of your sails?
No, you did. The unified systems, UTMs used to be a small business play, and then would sort of move into mid-market. And then Astaro's core customer base is the small to mid-sized enterprise, SME. And we've expanded, and we're getting more and more pickup into larger enterprises, because what's valuable in a small enterprise actually turns out to work in larger enterprises. Maybe, as you said, the pressures on people have grown to where mid-sized enterprises that maybe would have run a separate firewall, a separate web content filter, they're looking at that rack of gear and how many things they need to run and how many people it takes to run it, and they're seeing the value of that convergence. But you also mentioned compliance, which is something that's interesting to see how compliance is really rolling down. The guys in the big shops are used to compliance, or at least should be. And in certain verticals, in financials and in healthcare, compliance, but it's still getting tighter. The screws are getting tightened on those guys. But things like PCI, things like all of 44 states' breach disclosure laws, and now specific data protection laws like we have in Massachusetts, where Astaro is located, we have, or headquartered, we have a pretty strict data protection law that is really pushing regulatory and compliance requirements right down to the local gas station, the local coffee shop has these requirements that they need to deal with. A lot of them are choosing to ignore it, but a lot of them are realizing that they can't, and they're stepping up to this. And now that means that there's this layer of complexity. We're getting a handle on these systems. We're getting a handle on firewalls. We're getting a handle on web content filtering. We're getting a handle on spam. And now I have to figure out how to maintain security of my network, maintain manageability, but fill out a really big honking checklist, or how to deal with the auditor or assessor that comes in.
Well, because these guys they're dealing with confidential information. A lot
Absolutely.
of cases at a baseline, credit card numbers, and quite often they're grabbing social security numbers and other confidential information that I've gotten at least one letter over the years from my credit card company telling me that one of the vendors that I purchased something from had a breach and my information's floating around and I should be vigilant. Now I have no idea how to be vigilant while I'm here on this interview with you if someone's stealing my identity. So that doesn't help me.
It is, how do you know? A lot of people, when they have a breach, they resort to providing credit monitoring, but there's a publicity hit. Sometimes it has an impact on the reputation of the company, sometimes it doesn't. Some companies suffer more than others. It depends on what you do. If you're in financial services, the reputation of how well you protect your data, that's pretty important.
Sure.
And there are smaller companies that are in financial services that are like boutique or hedge fund people that really cater to some of the folks that you see walking around Manhattan who, let's just say, don't shop where I do for men's clothes. The brands that they deal with make the difference between whether or not they deal with them.
That's right.
And so reputation, and it's really hard to quantify. As technologists, we like data, and we're not getting a lot of data, but there are some things that you don't need data. Trash a reputation of a high-end brand, and it's
you're absolutely right.
And if you don't treat your customers with respect,
and that's a concept that most technologists miss, and it's good to hear you. I mean, obviously you have the technical background, but you get branding, and you get how a simple mistake can screw you up for years.
Right. It's hard to recover. TJX did not suffer long-term damage, but they're a discount.
I was going to say,
discount provider.
They're not known for the high end. They're known for.
But you go there for a bargain,
right.
And as you said, somebody got a credit card. I got new credit cards from the Heartland breach. A debit card and credit card both were processed by Heartland, and I got preemptive letters, like you said, new cards.
It's interesting, I didn't even get a card. They're just like, be vigilant. We're in the middle of a financial crisis. We're not going to send you a new card. That's going to hit our bottom line.
Yeah, I lucked out, and so what do? You have to do the best you can. And like I said, reconciling that with compliance has been a real issue. But you hit on some of the other trends. These things are just pulling together, and people are trying to figure out how to use things like cloud. Cloud is a great buzzword. It's also a fantastic technology. Leveraging cloud in a way that's appropriate for your environment is going to be a huge asset.
Sure.
For example, when I demonstrate Astaro, a lot of times I'm demonstrating on systems that are actually in a cloud lab that's run out of Europe. It's perfect. All I need is an internet connection. I can spin them up. I can give them more power. If I'm doing a lot of demos of a lot of people, I can turn them down. I don't store confidential data in it, so I don't encrypt the drives. I don't worry as much, but I am running our systems, so the data is always encrypted going to and from them. There are parts of a lot of companies' businesses that can migrate to the cloud easily, but does it work for you, and do you have to re-architect it? There are a lot of people that want to move to the cloud without thinking about the significance of it. At Astaro, we've got a cloud offering. We do Astaro Mail Archiver, which we do cloud-based mail archiving. That leverages the power. We make sure that of the cloud, we can burst the CPU needed to index all of that. And that's a good use of it. We're a security company. We're making sure the data is encrypted on its way to that process. It's encrypted, it's isolated in those boxes, and then it's encrypted coming back to you. You think it out and work, hey, that works. We're going to be launching a beta of a log analysis engine. You can use whatever buzzword you want. You can call it SIM, you can call it log analysis, whatever. We're going to take log from not just our systems, but other systems, move them into a cloud-based service, store them there so you don't need the terabytes of data that logs generate, especially coming back to compliance.
Sure.
You have to have a year's worth of everything.
Sure.
So where do we put it all? Once we have it all, how do I index it? So we're going to offer
You're
that
building
service.
Okay, so you answered my final question, so that's great.
So we're offering that, and we're moving into it. We have a lot of things in the pipeline that I think are cool, and that's the next one up.
Jack, I hope you come back down to our video shoots, our newsroom,
Yep,
and the next time we'll be up in Boston at some point in the future, or you come down to Connecticut. Hopefully we'll get together and hear about your progress.
All right, great.
Thanks for being on the program.
Thank
it's
you.
Great.
Thank you.